Okie dokie. Now that we've looked at thousandths as far as their place, I do want to show you a visual picture of what thousandths looks like. Before, we were talking about this as the whole, right? We split it into 100 pieces or 10 pieces. You don't have to draw that. But now we're talking about this is our whole. If you can imagine a cube that's 10 by 10 by 10, that is our whole. So how many pieces are in there? 1,000 pieces. So each of them is a thousandth. Each one of them is a thousandth. So if I see this laid out, I can think of these ones, those flat blocks. 10 of them would make a thousandth. So those are my tenths. Okay. Those little skinny pieces, 100 of those would make a whole. So those are my hundredths. And then these itty bitty pieces, those are my thousandths. Oops. There we go. Thousandths. That does say thousandth. If you need to know how to spell it, it's the same as right up there. So we're just splitting it up and we're breaking it up sort of into the individual places. Notice how, like I said, they do get smaller as we go. So thousandths are pretty small if you consider that this is one whole thing. So like if that's $1, and that's a bad example because we don't normally break $1 into 1,000 pieces. But if it was like these would be the cents because there's 100 of them that fit. Those would be like a part of a penny. Or if I broke, again, a candy bar. I don't cut a candy bar into 1,000 pieces. If I cut a second, in races, they'll cut seconds down into the thousandth of a second. So it's just the tiniest little piece of it. This example right here, notice we have one whole. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 tenths. 7 of those flat pieces, because if I took those flat pieces, 10 of them would make up the cube. Then I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 hundredths. And then I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 little thousandths. So all together I have 1 and 777 thousandths. Because if I were to count each of those little cubes, I would get 777. They've just put them in groups for me. I gave 5 examples on this one because it's a new thing that we have to wrap our brain around. We're so used to a flat piece being a whole that suddenly we have to change what we're thinking. So this is still our whole. It'll be our whole for all of them. Notice how I have no holes. I have none of the whole ones. I also don't have any of my tenths. It just starts right at my hundredths. So I have 4 hundredths, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 thousandths. So I have 46 thousandths with no tenths and no holes. The way I'm doing this is remembering, okay, this is my tenths, this is my hundredths, this is my thousandths. So however many hundredths I count, that's going to go in my hundredths place. However many thousandths I count, that's going to go in my thousandths place. Make sure you're writing these down so you can refer back to it. This is my whole. I do start with one whole. Here are my tenths. I have 3 of them, so I'm going to put a 3 in the tenths place. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 hundredths. So I'm going to put 9 in my hundredths place. Now I don't have any thousandths, so I can put a 0. I don't have to. I could just leave it as 39 tenths. Shoot, I could say I have no thousandths, I have no 10 thousandths, I have no 100 thousandths. I could keep writing zeros because I have none of those little pieces there. There aren't any. I will point out that if I were to get 10 of these, I could regroup them and make a 10th. Just like if I got one more here, one more 100th, I would have to regroup it and I would suddenly have 4/10ths here. Your worksheet isn't going to have any regrouping, but just keep in mind, just like I can regroup with whole numbers, I can regroup with decimals. This is still my whole. I do have one whole. Let's draw our places on this one. So my tenths, do I have any tenths? Do I have any of those flat pieces? No, I do not. Do I have any of my hundredths? I do have 5 hundredths. Do I have any thousandths? Yes, I have 4 thousandths. So I have 54 thousandths because 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54 little pieces ends up with 54 thousandths. 2 more examples and then I can help you out more if you need. This is still my whole. I have no wholes. I do have some tenths. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tenths. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hundredths, and just 1 thousandth. So it's just a matter of counting. How many do I have? And remembering, these are my tenths, these are my hundredths, those are my thousandths. That's why we labeled them on that first slide. Rewind the video and label them if you need to, if you didn't do that. All right, one more. See, you write it down and see if you get it. All right, if you need to pause it and write it down. Okay, I have one whole. I have 2 tenths. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 hundredths, and just 1 thousandth. Now, some pictures won't separate it out. They'll just color on here how many there are. So if I just were to like color in one of these corners, that would be 1,000th. If I were to color in a whole skinny piece, that would be a hundredth. If I were to color in a whole face, that would be a 10th. So just keep that in mind, that it can be visualized differently. This is just one way to visualize these little thousandths and hopefully get a better idea about how they just keep getting smaller. Let me know if you need help. Good luck.